Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Carosoft Technology would like to welcome you to our ServiceNow Federal Tech Talk, transforming government forms into an efficient experience. Joining us today with ServiceNow, we have Joe Kim, Senior Solution Sales Executive, Mark Maurice, Senior Advisory Solution Consultant, and Dale Stubblefield, Senior Advisory Solutions Consultant. Before we get started, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items. Please note that all lines have been muted to reduce any kind of background noise throughout the presentation. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen, and we will do our best to answer by the end of the presentation or follow up with you offline following the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and a copy will be emailed to you. Just to tell you a little bit about Carosoft, we are a trusted government IT solutions provider supporting public sector organizations across federal, state, and local government agencies, including education and healthcare markets. At this time, I'd like to hand the floor over to our speakers. Mark, the floor is all yours.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Mark Maurice here. Welcome to this webinar where we're going to talk about how we can transform the forms in governments. So let's go to the next slide. My name is Mark Maurice, as part of the creator workflow at ServiceNow, been in the business of helping customers and federal agencies for 25 years and 20 here in the US. I still have my Texan accent, so I don't know why, but this is the way it is. So don't hesitate to ask questions as you go along the way of this webinar. And with me, we have Joe Kim.
Hi, everyone. Joe Kim, one of the Federal Civilian Creator Workflow Solution Executives, been in the federal IT space for a little over a decade now. Dale?
Thanks, Joe. And I'm Dale Stubblefield. I'm also a Senior Advisory Solution Consultant on Creator Workflows with Mark. I've been in IT about 20 years, since almost the late 1900s. Much of that time was as a regular IT person doing infrastructure and enterprise architecture. About 8 years ago, I started building custom applications and integrations on the ServiceNow platform. So I'm happy to be here today. Mark, what's next?
What's next? In this presentation, we're going to talk about future capabilities in the ServiceNow platform. So we have the safe harbor notice just to remind you. You don't have to read everything, just to remind you that don't make any purchasing decision. To get the latest updates on ServiceNow, always reach out to your team.
Thanks, Mark. So, Mark, it's 2024. We live in the future now. I still don't have a flying car. I do have AI now, which is pretty cool. But why do we still want to talk about paper-based forms?
You know, and that's something that really boggles my mind every day. But the more I work with federal agencies and the more I see that for some reason, people love forms. And, you know, that's kind of a love story between forms and the federal government. I don't know if they start with the same letter, F, but, you know, just look at the OPM website. You have 60 standard form, 57 for OPM, 30 for retirement and insurance, 5 for investigation. And each agency that we work with on a daily basis, each have their own specific forms, you know, and don't get me started with the DoD that has forms numbers in the thousands. So what we want to look into is how we can find a better experience at form, because at the end of the day, you know, these are some experiences are not optimal.
So what about when we talk about forms, Mark? What are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dale. When we talk about form, usually people just think about a PDF or a paper-based form, like you see on the left, a request form. I need a leave form, for example, in the DoD, or I need a form to go to a training like the SF-182. But forms can be so much more than that. You know, when you use a spreadsheet for managing your budgets or some plan, that's some kind of form that is a static document. Even though you start sharing it with people and you send it through email or you share it through SharePoint, it's still a very rigid structure. It's semi-structured and it's hard to automate. And then in the middle, you have forms that are used as tools, such as a risk assessment matrix that are used by law enforcement or by different agencies, like a Department of Agencies. They have the COAT tool, the Commercial Adoption Readiness Assessment tool, that they use as as a tool to collect data and assess a specific risk. And at the end, they just give you some numbers that you have to look up yourself and then go manually into a third-party system to actually make some other decisions and move forward. So what we want to do is, if you show next, we had a couple of examples of how we transformed this example of a risk assessment matrix into a dynamic application inside ServiceNow. And instead of having that form somewhere located and people don't know where to find, it's automatically triggered by the ServiceNow workflow and presented in a way that it's easy for users to fill. And at the end, when you click submit on that form, the workflow in ServiceNow automatically calculates the risk level for you. You don't have to go through hoops and understand math. It tells you if that law enforcement operation, for example, is going to necessitate a specific team or need to be located at some other location.
Nice. I like that, Mark. So it puts some of the logic in the system so the person doesn't have to do it as much. That's really cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I thought maybe we could interact with the audience a little bit. I think Kaylee may have a poll she can help us put on the screen. But one of the questions we were curious about from the audience today, what are the top maybe 3 forms, one if you only have one, that you frequently use? As we were preparing for this, one of the ones I heard a lot about from Mark was the SF-182. So maybe some of you have heard of that.
Yeah.
Mark, do you know what these others are?
Yeah, that's one of the form that comes up frequently when we talk with customers. I've also heard the SF-74, the financial disclosure form, the SAR request form on the DoD side, and the recommendation forward. These are some of the forms that I hear the most. I would love to hear what the audience actually have to deal with. Because what we can do is actually we can use that information to Dale, myself, Joe, and the rest of the creator workflow team for federal. We use that information to come up with creative solutions to help all the agencies that struggle with the same forms. So the more we know about what you need, is the better we're gonna be able to present some solutions that actually tailored to your specific needs.
Absolutely. So I promise we're not going to do questions all day, but while we're here, just wanted to add one more question. Of those, or maybe other forms in your agency, think about which ones are the most time consuming to complete. And when I was thinking about this, I thought, well, some may only have 10 questions, but it might take days or even weeks to fill them out, while others may have 100 questions and you finish in an hour. So regardless of the length of the form, we were curious maybe which one of those are the most time consuming.
Yeah, and sometimes, I've seen forms where they are simple, but then the data has to be published in so many other third-party systems that it's hard actually to do that automatically, and they have to do manual data entry, which is very time consuming.
Thanks for answering those. We appreciate the information. I just kind of wanted to jog your thought processes about what that day-to-day experience is like. So as we kind of go through the rest of the webinar today, there's one example in particular that we thought we would dial in on for the discussion.
Yeah, and so one of the things that what we do is that I see many agencies that actually look at forms or their application, and they send us requirements. And often they spend months and months typing requirements and user stories. And very often they don't really deliver at the end of the whole process. So we take a different approach. We take a more human-centered approach. And we want to use the SF-182 to show you that approach and how we focus more on the user experience. And if you go next, we really try to focus on the people. What do they feel when they fill that form? What is the experience? How much frustration are they experiencing? And what would be the ideal, right? And we start asking them, and we're going to talk about the workshop that we do. In those workshops with our customers, we ask them to think in terms of how might we change, how might we access that form? How might we find that form better? And so we're going to go through the employee and all the different participants in the SF-182.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think I'll start out with the employee path here and then pass it off to you because there's quite a few steps in this. But the first thing someone typically does on the SF-182 or any other paper or Excel or PDF form is they have to find it. And part of the challenge with that is they don't always know if they're on the latest version. Just a quick Google search the other day, I found 3 different copies of the SF-182 on different government websites that looked like they were the same, but I would have had to have looked through every single field on them to make sure I had the right one, because they all claimed to be the right one. So assuming I found the correct form, the next challenge is filling it out. And if you've ever been to a doctor's office and it's your first visit, they make you fill out your name and address and social security number and everything 2, 3, 4 times on different sheets of paper. It'd be nice if the system already knew who I was. The doctor already knows who I am. I shouldn't have to provide that information again, but in this case, I have to type it all over again in the PDF, which is time consuming. Hopefully I don't make my L's into ones and vice versa. And then I finally get to the part that's actually relevant for the process, which is actually adding the training and cost information. But as I was looking through that SF-182 form, I noticed that some of the questions just had a drop down that said 1 through 6. Go to page 6 to see what those mean. And so that's causing a lot of flip around in the document to make sure you're selecting the right option. So you could potentially click the wrong one, go through this whole thing for weeks of approvals and come back and have to start all over again. Assuming I actually filled that out, I then have to email it to someone, typically my manager. And with email, I don't know when they're going to get it, when they're going to look at it, or what's even going to happen after that. So that becomes a little bit of a challenge just from the employee perspective. Mark, can you tell me a little bit about what happens after that when maybe a first line supervisor actually gets the email from the employee?
Yeah, and what we hear from people is that actually the first line supervisors, like every manager, they are inundated with emails, right? And so they receive the email, it's in their inbox, but there are so many requests at the same time. And so what happens is that now they have to go through, find which one is more important. I had a customer recently tell me she spends more time managing the finding the work than actually doing the work. And so that's what we are in the business of. And for example, here in the first line supervisor, once they actually find that email, it's actually hard for them to actually open that PDF, and they have to go through the same process that Dale, you just mentioned, right? It's time consuming. When they see that the employee entered number 6 on the question 10, it's like, what does it mean? They probably have seen that form hundreds of times already, but there are some questions in those forms that have 20 type of choices that you can select. You can't really memorize all of those, especially as those forms really change often. So also when I just open that PDF, you as the employee, you have no visibility that I just did that, right? You have no way of telling me if there was a change in your request. So I go and I start validating, approving, and then I repeat the same work again that you did. I send that to my manager. And that second line manager, again, through the same process, they have a even more inundated email inbox, and they go through the same process, validating, understanding the field. So all the problems stack on top of each other at every layer of the organization. And then finally, I email this as a second line manager to the training officer.
Yeah, I noticed when the training officer gets it, it's been through several people. On a good day, this might be hours. On a bad day, this could be a couple of weeks of this email and PDF moving its way through the work queues of different people. The training officer has a different role where, again, they're opening up the document, validating everything, and then they may need to actually go to a different system like Cornerstone and actually put in the cost and training information into Cornerstone to keep track of the records of what's been approved on this email thread, by the way, which is kind of hard to audit. And they're doing the same thing, open the PDF, look through everything, copy it to another system, and then look up in their decoder ring who to actually send this form to and on who's actually going to finally authorize the person to go to the training. This authorizing person is going to have the same challenge as the first 2 supervisors. They also have to open the PDF, make sure it was filled out correctly, get additional information from the training officer, and then finally sort of give their seal of approval that this person can even go to the training, which hopefully the training hasn't already passed. That would not be fun to have to do everything all over again. Finally, someone is going to email notice back to the employee through a large email thread that this training is finally approved. The final step in the process here, Mark, I believe, is the email. If the employee is lucky, they're not sure what to do, but they may know to go to this last final step.
Yeah, and that's often the challenge with forms, is that often you need a form to actually request another form or get to the next level. Like, so remember this comic we saw from Dilbert, right? The guy needs a form, and then the guy responsible for this form tells them it's online. And so same story here. Fortunately here, this is an example that I was talking with a customer where he told me that he's already using ServiceNow for managing all the purchase requests. And that's great, because now as we automate this SF-182 process, we can tie this process and automatically kick off that purchase request directly in ServiceNow without having people to manually go and find another form.
Whoa, Mark, that's the fun part. Let's save that for later.
Yeah.
So as we kind of counted these up, we counted there's actually about 13 very manual steps here, some way more time consuming than others in this process. And I'm pretty sure that we could reduce these down to fewer steps in a lower amount of time. So one last question for all of you, and this one's kind of a ringer. I think you probably all know the answer, but we'll just check and see anyway. And maybe we'll have a Zoom poll, but are any of you interested in actually transforming forms in your agency, or no, you love filling out forms the way they are already? Hopefully that's because you've already transformed them all and not because you like the paper forms. But hey, if you like the look and feel of that paper form, that is okay.
Yeah, I often hear stories from people. There are really people that want to change how the federal government operates, and they want to make it better. But sometimes you do have pocket of people that just like to do things the way they ever done things. And I think that there is a way for people to actually in the middle and say, bring more people and change the way it's being done and make things more efficient in the government. And I think that everybody is going to be more happy in the end. So this is, of course, we had to have 11% of people or 4 people to say that they love filling form. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to assume that's because they're already transformed and it's already amazing at your organization. That's good. We appreciate the feedback. So back to these 13 steps, there has got to be a better way, Mark, that we could be doing this. And I think we might all know what the answer to this one is.
Of course, there is a better way, right? So if you look at the process, ServiceNow can get you to exit that nightmare of filling form.
Yeah, especially with the power of creator workflows and App Engine, which is how you can really take the power of the ServiceNow platform and build out any process. So let's go back to that big diagram of the current state and see if we can talk about a better way to do this. So some of those first problems were, where's the form? It takes forever to fill out. It's not intuitive. So I think there's a great way that we could solve that challenge, actually all 3 of those at once, with what we call a service portal. So Mark, I was going to see if you would maybe walk us through that, a little bit of what that means.
Yeah, what it means is that when we talk about people, the challenge is finding the right form. Here was an example that we did for the Army, where people used to use a PDF form to recommend a soldier for an award. Here, let's say a Lieutenant Dan Taylor connect to the ServiceNow portal, and instead of having to search the form, he can go directly into the AI search bar, and he can type the word award, what he's looking for. And the AI directly searches for all the forms that are available inside ServiceNow. And he also presents the different knowledge articles that are available so that people are directed to the relevant knowledge. He can go back, realize that he wants to actually fill that form, and directly, instead of having to fill the data again and again, he's really happy that his name is already populated here as a recommender. The system has set up his name here, and his rank is automatically filled. He doesn't have to fill that information over and again. He's searching for Sergeant First Class Hurricane that he wants to recommend. And upon, again, the data right there was populated automatically. Now he only has to fill the details of the nomination, gotta submit all that achievement that justified the nomination, and just right there, he has a summary of what he submitted, and he can come back at any time to respond and continue that submission. This is just one example of how the ServiceNow portal and the ability to create forms very quickly with create a workflow can help you automate and make that whole process more frictionless.
Nice. That's really cool. I always love how we have the service portal to show those items. So going on to the next step of the process, there was a long thread here of email approvals and forwarding of things, of opening the PDF, making sure that values line up. The employee is not really able to even have any visibility into the status. So I was thinking one way that could be easily fixed, just a simple email. So when this first line supervisor gets a notification saying, hey, something's been submitted, like an SF-182, it needs your approval, then they can easily approve it straight from the email, assuming the system has already done all the validations, or they can actually click in and go view the request and then see it in the ServiceNow portal. And that way they already know things have been validated. That stuff was already checked when the employee filled out the form, and ServiceNow took care of that logic. So it makes the approval process a lot faster. And now the employee, being in a single system, is also going to be able to see the status as well. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. The way we route this stuff, though, is what we call flows. It's really our way that we design workflows in a tool we call Workflow Studio, of course. But essentially, these are just little flows. They're visual. They don't require any advanced coding or technical IT skills to build them out. It's something as simple as the ticket was created for the SF-182. The system sends an email. This is all no code. You just say who you want it to go to, or you sort of link it to that person's manager, because we have all the information in the system. We send that approval out to the supervisor, and it's a simple if statement. If it's approved, go ahead and update the ticket and say it's ready for second line approval. If not, just send it back to the employee with an email saying that that was not approved. You can link all these flows together in a process, and now we have an automated end-to-end way to make sure the approval process is guided and people are notified correctly and on time. So Mark, after we finish all this, though, we go back to the training officer. Again, they still have to talk to a manual system. That's great. ServiceNow did all that validation, but they still are going over to Cornerstone and retyping the information. What would make that a lot easier?
But also, Dale, what we heard from people is all the frustration, right? Because sometimes organizations focus on finding features or specific software, but they miss the impacts on the user experience and their job happiness. The what we heard from training officers and people like that they have to do a lot of data entry that doesn't add value in their job, right? They're copying data from the PDF and put that into a third-party system.
Yeah, and now in the future with 2024, it'd be nice if those systems just talk directly to each other. So that's what we're showing an example of here, again, in an automated flow. So we have another thing we call Integration Hub that comes with several hundred of these pre-built integrations to other enterprise systems. One of those is Cornerstone. And so we can easily set it up to say, once the training request is approved, go look up the employee in Cornerstone and update the employee information in Cornerstone. This is an integration that doesn't require complex coding or knowledge of deep IT things. It's as simple as building the flow out. And now this training officer doesn't really have to transfer the system from one to another. That's going to take the human errors down to zero. It's going to make things go a lot quicker, because now we're not waiting on a person to look through their email, validate everything all over again. It's now just an automated flow. So there is, before I go to that next one, there's another scenario where, let's say that other system doesn't have an API. Believe it or not, there are government systems out there that are a little older and don't even have a REST or a SOAP API. An API is how two computer systems talk to each other in an automated fashion. So for those, we actually have, for things like an older ERP system, ServiceNow does have RPA now. It's just like your other RPA people you may have heard of, except it's, ServiceNow RPA, and it can go out and talk to those older systems, be it a green screen or some kind of forms application from 20 years ago. A robot can now do that interaction. So whether it's Cornerstone or an older system, we've got you covered on the API integrations and the older systems where we just have a robot go do it for the person. For the systems that do have an API, though, there's a third scenario there. Let's say you want to talk to another system that has an API. We at ServiceNow have a lot of pre-built integrations, but yes, there are some that we don't have. So for this one, I used an example from OpenGSA, and I looked at this regulations.gov API where I can go and look up new regulations that have been passed by our amazing politicians. And you may need to go and see what those are on occasion. It'd be nice to look them up in an automated fashion. There's an API for that. So in ServiceNow, the way I can quickly build that is, let's say Mark and I, we're going to build this on our own. We have to go look up this documentation. Each step in the process may take us a whole day to build out just a simple activity, and there might be dozens of these we have to build out. Well, in 2024, most organizations like this will offer you a file that describes their integration. And what we can do in ServiceNow is just create an integration based off of that file in just a few moments. So in here in the Workflow Studio, you can see I'm going to go create what we call a spoke. A spoke on our integration hub, you get the joke. A spoke is a collection of those activities to talk to the other system. So here I'm getting the URL for that file from the gsa.gov, OpenGSA. I'm going to put it in here, and I need a little password called an API key. I just emailed them. They actually emailed it back in an automated fashion, and I'm able to then just put that in here to connect the two systems together. So now I've uploaded the file to tell it what to do, and it went a little fast there. So let me go back and pause it for a second. But you see there's 10 pre-built actions here, things like creating a new comment, listing out documents from the regulations, getting detailed information for a specific regulation. Each of these alone could have taken a pro developer a half a day to code by hand or even build by hand. But
all of that
Mark.
was done very quickly. Yeah,
it was done very quickly, which seems a little magical. But because we have that file, ServiceNow can just go pre-build all this for us in about 1 to 2 minutes, which saves us weeks of work building an integration down to a simple upload of a file. Then we can go focus on building that flow out to talk to the other system. So we can really save a lot of time there talking to Cornerstone or other systems. So there are some exceptions though, Mark.
Yeah, and just to let the audience know here for the spoke generator, that's something new on the Vancouver release.
Yeah.
And so before Vancouver, you could do the same thing, but it would take you a little bit more time, like a couple of hours to build each of those integrations. And if you were to do that using other platforms or just code, it would take days and days or even weeks. So just, Vancouver, you get the spoke generator like Dale just showed. You can point it to some API standard file from GSA or SAM.gov, and then it will generate the integration automatically for you. And so no code to maintain or low code, very quick to use. Going back to your question, So coming back to here, what we talk about right now, if you look at the SF-182 story that we laid out in the process, we talk about, the happy path of someone requesting a form, going to the manager and being approved. But we know that in life, things happen and you need to take care often of those exceptions. And so what happens when it does? So what we heard from customers is it's often the challenges in managing those exceptions and allowing people to see or change their request. How do they do that with ServiceNow? How do they do that with what they have today? So if you go to the next slide, I have an example here. So here, Nancy, she's using a nomination form from ServiceNow, and she's guided through the process of filling that form. So unlike using a PDF, she has entered all that information. and she can go through from different steps, entering the witness information on the proof page. She can attach a document, a letter of nomination. That document is going to be encrypted and attached to the record. She's going to click next and submit her nomination. All right, so great. So now, later in the day, she has a, if you go back to, if you go next, sorry, right, later in the day, or maybe the next week, she has a question about her form. And so instead of having to go through email and send a question, she goes to the portal. She can see the list of nominations she submitted. She can see the details. She can see that the form was actually, the agent is working as Alan Jones. And directly she has a question about this nomination. Can that be considered for the nomination cycle in 2024, or is that going to be 2025? And immediately she can see that at the top, Alan Jones is viewing the form because he's working on it. And directly he's going to be able to type his answer. He's typing now. And that all that conversation is happening real time into the form. There is no emailing back and forth, lost in the jungle of email. And he just replied, yes, it's eligible for this year's nomination cycle. No back and forth. Nancy's happy. She goes back. She loves that there is no friction, and she got her answer quick.
Nice. Nice. I really like that. It's a good process. We had one little question in the chat, Mark, I noticed from Balaji on just asking how easy is it to customize the display of the fields, things like knowing when the user was last logged in and whatnot. Balaji,
that's
ahead,
pretty straightforward. Everything you do in ServiceNow is tracked by the Now platform, audited, and you can bring that information into the form by just dragging a field inside the form.
Yeah. Hital, we had another question there, but if it's okay, I'd like to save that one. We're going to have a little bit more of a time at the end to go over into some of those questions. That one's a little longer to answer.
Yeah.
But I promise we'll be there pretty quickly. So Mark, as we've kind of solved these problems, we now are down to only 5 simple steps where everything that's going to be automated, whether it's validating input, sending people notifications about approvals, even talking to another system is now automated. I'd be willing to bet as we went even further, even more of this could be automated. Things like, is the requests under a certain dollar amount, then we could just auto approve it. If it's from a certain department, we could auto approve it and get this even more streamlined.
Yeah, and I think, just moving from 13 manual steps to 5 steps, this is just, unbelievable.
Yep.
So just wanted, when you think about how you get there, how do you get to a transformed state, a more optimized? And when you look at federal forms like this one, this is a standard leaf form. There are tons of fields to actually digitize. And you have to go through a data modeling effort to be able to start. And often that slows down the effort of the project. So what we introduced with App Engine is the ability with a tool called PDF Extractor to actually very easily understand what the PDF is about and add those fields very quickly. So I'm going to walk you through an example. So here we have an app. I can add a table very quickly by uploading any text-based PDF. Right there, this is the leaf form. It's attached. When I upload that PDF into App Engine, that document is being passed to Document Intelligence, our AI-based solution for understanding PDF or any scan-based documents. Here, I just set up the security of that table very easily. And now I can inspect all of the fields. So I can click, set the name of the field, give them a type that I want, and I can do that for all of the fields. And now, Dale, you talk about all the choices, sometimes they are just numbers. With the PDF extractor, we can easily give them a meaningful name and a meaningful type. So here we can directly type the name of the fields and make them choices that people can select a meaningful name instead of numbers. Right there, often forms have a table inside the PDF. And so what we can do is actually extract that table and make that a reference table inside ServiceNow. When you're done, you can actually go back to the table editor inside App Engine Studio, and you can visualize your form completely finished. and you can start drag and dropping fields, thinking about what would be the best experience for the end users. And you can do this in a matter of hours instead of weeks and months.
Yeah, that's really cool, Mark. So taking that older process in the back and bringing it to the future state, we've mapped out the process really well. Now that the process is in ServiceNow, as users continue to go through it, we're now building up a lot of information about the process, who it went to, how long it was in that state, how long it was waiting for someone to take an action, how quick it was integrating with Cornerstone. So it'd be nice if we could do even more with that data that we have about the process. It'd be nice if we could, I'm going to insert a joke here just to add some levity. It'd be nice if we could mine the process, Mark.
Yeah, and actually, once you actually digitize your form into a ServiceNow application and people are starting to use it, the ServiceNow platform starts to log every interaction with this form. And so what you can do is like using an X-ray machine that actually makes things visible in your body and be able to help doctors find problems in your health. The same thing with the ServiceNow process mining tool. You're able to actually use the process mining, and it's going to point it to your processes, and it's going to be able to find bottlenecks. Who's holding the request? Who is not approving it on time? How long does it take? And it's also looking at what are the steps that are redundant. Maybe sometimes they go into a loop and it goes from manager back to the end user, back to the manager, back to the employee, and so on and so forth. Why? You can drill down into the data, understand what was the request about, and understand what changes. So at the end, the process mining tool in ServiceNow, it's going to give you some insights that are not visible because you're looking just at the tip of the iceberg in your processes. And it's going to give you the tools that you need to actually make informed modifications of your workflow. And at the end, you will be able to find things that would not be possible otherwise.
Yeah, that's true. We got a couple of more questions in here. I'm just going to take one of them for now. We'll definitely have some more time at the end. But this for ServiceNow processes only, actually, no. Originally, it was just for ServiceNow processes only, but now we can get data from other systems and run it through this same thing and run the same analysis on it. As far as it being new, I believe process mining, I want to say since maybe Tokyo-ish or Utah. So it's been through a few cycles now. And then process mining and flow designer are kind of two separate things. Flow designer is where you build the automation. Process mining is where I'm sorry if I said process designer, that's something else. Process mining is more about analyzing the historical records of a process and allows you to draw conclusions about it. But Mark, I think we've done quite a bit of chatting here. I'm going to grab a breath of fresh air for a second and turn this over to Joe. Joe, I understand that you have actually talked to some customers and have a few stories you can share with us that are even more relatable than just an SF-182 form.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys did a great job of breaking down how digitizing and automating government forms can change how an agency operates. And, personally, I can relate. There's a lot of forms I had to fill out as a combat medic in the Army, but there were so many other mission tasks that my energy needed to be used on. So especially when a soldier had an urgent need, those paper or manual forms just absolutely made it difficult to do my job. And one of the best parts of being with ServiceNow is that, I'm seeing some of those same challenges being solved and modernized with custom apps on App Engine. And the first example I wanted to highlight here is for a healthcare agency. And before they used App Engine, their Form 1137 waiver process, their applications and inquiries were done entirely through email. This process strained customer resources. They added extra work for dependent organizations and introduced all kinds of confusion for stakeholders. The waiver process was managed through 5 separate group mailboxes, email mailboxes, and it made it real difficult to get a national view and insight into the program itself. Improving the waiver process was a top priority, and these challenges were common across several publicly facing programs. Next slide, please. So with the new App Engine based custom map, the process was improved in two critical ways. The requesters from state departments, organizations, and providers could eliminate paper forms altogether. They could submit their requests and their inquiries through a streamlined mobile-friendly web portal app, and they were able to eliminate the step of having to process incoming paper forms, and they were giving much better insight into all the requests coming in nationally. And they had the ability to track them through internal processes with reporting, with response metrics and national trends. And because of the success of this, they were able to streamline other essential and critical public processes and procedures altogether. The next customer.
Nice. What I liked about that one, Joe, was the mobile part where originally maybe they're filling out a form. Now they're in the future just doing it on their phone, just like every other thing we do today. So
exactly.
That one's really good.
It is 2024, right?
Right.
Yeah. The next example I want to highlight is the USDA Agricultural Marketing Service, specifically the Warehouse and Commodity Management Division. The next slide will highlight where they started. So there are important processes for warehouse licensing, storage contracts, compliance examination, financial review. They're all managed with outdated mainframe technology and various spreadsheets and databases that had limited data access. And because of the siloed nature of the systems, they weren't able to access systems remotely. Imagine how hard this was during COVID, right? The inspection teams had a heavy reliance on paper and postal service because of that. And I can show you the beginning stages of the flow in the next slide here.
Sorry, Joe, I was laughing at the comment from Edward. Fax tunnels should be banned.
Yeah.
Someone said they still have a fax tunnel. This reminds me of,
oh man,
I worked at Blockbuster Video in the 90s, and we had the same mainframe to check out videos. How far have we come? One, there's no more Blockbuster. And two, we don't have to use screens like this anymore. So what did they do as they were kind of modernizing this process?
Yeah. I mean, take a look at some of these processes here. I mean, this is the beginning stage where they started. Look how long all these processes took. I mean, 5 to 10 days for mainframe and access, over 30 days for Delphi and snail mail. I mean, it took a total of just about 60 days to process this whole compliance examination. I mean, if this were a commercial business, I mean, they would lose all their customers, right? But the good news is on the next slide, they were able to reduce this entire processing time from 60 days to 30 minutes, right? Not 30 days, 30 minutes. Pretty significant improvement. Not only were they able to increase the speed of compliance processing times, but they're able to actually add governance to it as well, where they had electronic audit trails of data inputs, actions, and approvals. And as a taxpayer, and I'm sure as a government employee, you care about this as well, there was significant cost savings, specifically $700,000 annually, just in terms of labor, paper, and postage. In addition to that, there was about $3 million in annual cost savings by eliminating hosting and operations fees from the previous mainframes. So pretty cool story, really great improvement here for this customer.
And Joe, maybe one clarification here. So we replaced all of those applications, the mainframe, I think that you had MS Access, paper, Delphi, mail, and so on, with just one App Engine application, not 7.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I want to see the Drake animation one more time. No. Yes. I like that.
Yep.
Sorry. I think you had one more story, Joe, and then we can start answering some of these questions in the chat. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, the last customer example I want to highlight is a government transit agency. Been a customer with us since 2017, and like many customers, they overlooked being able to build a custom app or extending out-of-the-box workflows with App Engine. How this all started was a stakeholder objective came up on how the customer shared critical employee work information across multiple shifts where thousands of technicians, operators, and controllers needed to communicate. The employee shift turnovers involved a pretty burdensome manual process involving 17 paper forms on clipboards. And obviously this process, clipboards. Yeah, just like the example you shared earlier, Dale. So this process was filled with human error, incomplete or missing information. If I had to do that on a daily basis, I probably wouldn't fill out all the information too. But this this process did not allow any data to correlate trends, common issues between shifts, or develop new services altogether. So in essence, there was no way to electronically record the shift turnovers for audits. So the good news is, if you move to the next slide, the customer decided to, once they decided to design and develop a custom shift turnover app with App Engine for rail operations, which they're able to deploy in less than 60 days, they're now able to capture and share information, which is a good use of staff time. The new low-code solution is a centralized platform built to enable better communication and improve access to information for employees. They immediately saw 90% certification rates in the new shift change processes and a 600% increase in electronically recorded events and data points. Huge shift in how employees are able to do their jobs, and those clipboards that we talked about replaced with tablets at each station. So I'm sure that's a much better look, especially for passengers, right?
100%.
So one thing that I wanted to point out, Joe, is the look and feel of that application may not look like this amazing mobile-ready type of experience, but I love about it is that the fact that I've seen so many customers that focus on, hey, first we need to change the look of the application, but they forget that the most important thing is the experience and the workflow behind. And so once that you can start to digitize the data and automate the work, and not focus only on the look and feel, you can start to automate work and help people do their work faster. Then once this is in ServiceNow, this is much easier to make it look prettier and better colors and so on. But I think that what's really is important here is the outcome that they got out of this application.
Yeah, so much as possible, for sure. Great points. Just to wrap things up here, as far as how things out, all the shift turnovers, they're digitally recorded and signed by staff, which provided more analytics and reporting, something that they didn't have before. The custom app allowed the customer to retire all their paper forms, obviously, which means less downtime, and overall improve the employee's ability to act on service data, and prevented a significant amount of employee accidents from knowing what to expect before they started the shifts. So yeah, if you have any other questions or interested in learning more about other customer examples, feel free to reach out to us. We have plenty of others to share with you.
Nice. Thanks, Joe. As we are kind of wrapping up towards the end here, we got a few more things to chat about. Mark, I think you were going to maybe go through some of these. I'm going to start answering some of the questions in the chat as we kind of get through these last couple of slides, if that's okay.
Before you do, Dale, I want to show something that's really amazing. So hold on that for a second. What Joe just presented were impressive results from customers who've been using ServiceNow for a couple of years, and then they were using ServiceNow versions from many versions ago. And already you can achieve the same results on the ServiceNow version that you use today. What I want to talk about is how we are making this even faster with our future Gen AI infused workflows inside Creator Studio. So Creator Studio is going to be the addition and steroid-based infused app engine in ServiceNow. So here we have an employee that can go directly onto the portal and ask for creating an app a form to request, to allow an employee to request a headshot. And so when she goes there, directly the AI is going to respond.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. And the AI is telling her that she has access to the new Creator Studio. So she clicks on the link inside the chat, and she's going to be able to head over to the Creator Studio. It should go to the Creator Studio. Yeah.
Oh, there it goes.
Awesome. So now she's in the Creator Studio, and the conversation with the AI continues, and the AI is going to ask her additional questions.
I think maybe my computer is acting a little slow on the.
Okay,
There it is.
awesome. All right, so the AI is going to walk her through some of the collecting some of the data. What's the purpose of the application? What does she need? So she needs, names, emails, and times. It looks like that video is actually stuck.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. Oh, I see. It seems to be when I'm clicking my other window to answer Darren in the chat. I will stop. You're right, Mark.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So the AI is started to create the application and is now continuing to ask additional questions to Hillary. And she also asked questions about, hey, when people have this type of requirements, they usually need those type of fields. So not only the AI is here to help you create the application, but all it tells you, based on the history of people that have created similar forms, that you may need those type of fields as well. And here she can quickly look at how the application is going to look on the mobile device. The tool has already created the first application. And the way it's going to work is that the application is going to be submitted for approval to your ServiceNow administrator. And once the ServiceNow administrator approves the application, it's going to be available for people and to be deployed automatically using the App Engine Management Center tools inside Creator Studio to deploy that application to the production instance so that it's completely safe, governed properly, and the administrator is happy that the application is safe. And automatically, just in a matter of minutes now, anyone will be able to use Creator Studio to build forms very quickly.
Nice. That's really cool for the future there, Mark, seeing where things are going to go. We've got just a couple of last slides that don't have animations, so I can start to answer some of these questions. I understand we've got a pretty cool event coming up pretty soon that I'm sure a lot of people may already be aware of, and that's the Fed Forum. So can you tell us a little bit about what we can expect there, Mark?
Yeah, Fed Forum, this is the place to come to learn more about networking with your peers, learning more about additional successes that people achieve with the ServiceNow platform. That's going to be across the workflows of ServiceNow, from employee, customer, IT workflows, creator workflows. You're going to hear about all the amazing success. And it's 2 days this year. The first day is going to be sessions when you're going to learn more about how people use ServiceNow, the success they achieve. And the second day is going to be workshops. So for anyone that wants to get their hands on keyboard and build apps or automations, come register for the first and second day. And it's going to be at the National Harbor. So we are looking forward to see everyone at the workshop inside on the second day of the Federal Forum.
Looking forward to it. And what if I can't make it to Federal Forum? Is there another option?
Yeah, absolutely there. So the whole team here of the Creator Workflow in Federal, we host free App Engine workshops monthly after the Federal Forum. We do that our ServiceNow Tyson's Corner office. And so through that workshop, you'll be able to meet with like-minded people that actually are looking forward to modernize how federal government works. They want to know, you'll be able to, you'll be guided through the steps of building your first app if you haven't built one already. And we're going to map your process. We're going to understand what are the challenges. And then we're going to form teams, and with people from different agencies, you're going to collaborate how you do things. And we have people from different agencies or even from different components of the same agencies network for the first time just by being in the Creator Workflow App Engine workshops. And in the afternoon, you're going to be able to build an app, and at the end we have a mini presentation where everybody showcases their own application, and everybody talks about what they achieved, and we have amazing results. Many of the success that Joe presented actually came out of a simple idea in one of those workshops.
Nice. That's pretty good. They are pretty fun. I'm doing another one next week for a single customer, but doing these multi-customer events are pretty fun too. I did start answering a few questions in the chat. You guys have some really good questions in there, and we've got just a couple of minutes left, which is why I wanted to make sure I answered a few of them. So if it's
someone is asking how many times a year in the workshop would be offered. We do that once a month. Typically, we have a schedule that's going to be released. Yeah, awesome. Kate just pushed the schedule. Amazing. Thank you, Kate. Kate is on our team of creator workflow solution consultants supporting the Navy. So here our team is based in the US. Someone has a question for Canada, please reach out to us. We'll forward your question to the Canadian team.
Yep, there's a few more in here we can send some more information about, or just reach out to us and we can give you as well. We had one question about some of the value of citizen development and how viable it is. We actually have a citizen development section on the ServiceNow.com site that links out to a few studies on that, as well as some white papers and Center of Excellence frameworks that we've published on that. There's a question about Now Assist. So to clarify, what we've showed with building custom applications is what we call App Engine. It comes with and you buy it through an App Engine fulfiller license and you get the App Engine products. When it comes to building things with generative AI, that line of products is called Now Assist for Creator, and that's licensed for developers. So one license is for the people that use the apps, and anyone can build them. And the other license is to add AI for the developers so they can generate code and flows and other things. So kind of two things we're talking about there. Again, if it's not clear, definitely reach out to your account team. There's a good chance you'll get me and Mark answering the question as well.
I've seen Billy is asking what development experience level for low-code, no-code scoped apps is the workshop for. What's great is that you don't have to have a developer background. You just need an idea. So if you just come to the workshop with an idea about something you want to change in your agency, we'll be there for you, from beginning to end, showing you how to do it. We host workshops in the office for many customers at once. If you have enough people in your agency that are interested, we are also looking forward to host a workshop at your agency, wherever that is, as long as you have interesting things to modernize in your agency. Any other question on your side, Dale?
I think that's just about it. We had one about the development experience needed for these kind of low code, no code scoped apps. So if you already have ServiceNow skills, they're the same ones you already have. App Engine Studio makes it more accessible for people that maybe are newer to the platform. And we do have now learning modules that take you from beginner citizen development to advanced citizen development to regular developer to pro dev. And we even have some for people that actually have a development background. We are getting close to the top of the hour, though, and we really appreciate the time everyone took today to listen to us. It looks like most of you were able to stay the whole time. We'll take these questions we weren't able to answer. I'll try to find a way that we can get the answers to you. But definitely come out to Fed Forum, come out to the workshops, reach out to me or Mark or Joe if you have any questions. I'm fairly easy to Google. I'm sure these guys are as well. Mark, Joe, is there anything else we need to cover before we let everyone get back to work today?
I just think there was an important question here from Vanessa about will these apps firewall approved for the DoD agencies? We have many DoD customers, and the beauty with ServiceNow that once you use ServiceNow for one application, you have ATO, the platform in itself has been authorized. You just were using the tools that you have authorized the platform for. So you can start building other applications. Depending on the scope of the application, they might be automatically approved as well. So again, check the fine print, but typically it's easy to build additional applications on top of the ServiceNow platform. Thank you very much, everyone. Looking forward to meet all of you at the Federal Forum or one of our workshops. And I want to thank Joe and Dale, my partners here in the Creator Workflow team. Thank you very much, everyone. And also thank you, Kelly, from Carasoft, if you want to close it off.
Thank you, team. I'd like to thank all of our participants as well as our lovely speakers for being with us today. We hope the information that you received during this webinar has been helpful. As mentioned, if you have any further questions or would like to request more information, please feel to reach out. Thank you again and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and take care.
Thank you all.